Hey guys, and a couple days ago, I made a video about how Mario Tennis Fever has to do quite a lot of heavy lifting in order to improve the reputation of the Mario Sports subseries, and just win people over in general. But finally, we got an overview trailer for the game showing off the different content and features that this game has to offer, and honestly, I'd have to say, a lot of my hopes and wishes for this game are actually coming true. This game actually looks pretty good, and I would say this is looking to be the best Mario Tennis game since Power Tennis on the GameCube. It really has a lot of the same energy as a lot of these GameCube and Wii Mario sports games, and it doesn't seem like it will have the same issues holding it back as the Switch 1 Mario sports games, and it seems like a lot of people that feel the same way about this. I feel like this overview trailer got a lot of people on board with this game. So I wanted to discuss some of the things that were shown off in this overview trailer, and why this game looks much more promising now. One thing that I was really hoping to see in this game was enough content, because content in Mario sports games is always something that's kind of a concern, considering the history of this Mario subseries over the past decade. Mario Tennis Ultra Smash needs no introduction, Mario Sports Superstars is kind of weird and generic as well, Mario Tennis Aces was kind of lacking in variety even though it had good gameplay, Mario Golf Super Rush kind of lacked courses and didn't have a lot of variety as well, and Mario Strikers Battle League barely had any content in any area of the game. Like seriously, there were 10 characters at launch and 16 characters in total when everything was finished. And it didn't even have Daisy at launch, which was kind of crazy, considering how Daisy is kind of integral to the history of the Mario Sports series. The way these games handled their content was very weird too. Rather than having everything there from the start, the game felt very lackluster at first, and the content that should have been there was added in later. This was a very poor way of keeping players engaged, and it felt like they were just copying Splatoon. But thankfully, Mario Tennis Fever has a lot of content at launch, and it really seems like everything that should be here is here, which is so refreshing. It seems like Nintendo and Camelot finally learned that artificially getting people to keep playing the game doesn't really work, so having everything that needs to be here from the start is just so much better. And in terms of its characters, we already knew that there were going to be 38, but we got a full look at the roster here, and I think this roster is great. I mean, sure, I would love to see more extended Mario Universe reps, like characters from the Mario RPGs or Luigi's Mansion would be nice, but what is here is pretty good. It's basically the definitive Mario Tennis roster, outside of Donkey Kong Jr., Fire Piranha Plant, and the human characters from the older Mario Tennis games. Man, that would be cool if those human characters returned at some point. That would be great fan service and a great way to kind of call back to those older Camelot Mario Tennis and Mario Golf games. And we also got a few newcomers on the roster too, which are pretty cool. We got Nabbit, Goomba, I always think it's funny when Goomba is playable, Baby Wario, it's been a while since Baby Wario has been playable or even appeared in anything, and Baby Waluigi. Baby Waluigi is so ugly and cursed that it wraps back around to being hilarious. I love Baby Waluigi, and I feel like he's going to be one of my mains in this game, just due to how unhinged he is. I think it's so funny that they made a Baby Waluigi for this game. And it's also kind of poetic, since Camelot created Waluigi in the first place. And we also saw that this game is going to get alts as well, since we saw a light blue colored Yoshi, and Luma Lee for Luma, which I think is really cool. So some of these alts are going to be a little more in-depth and not just like colored versions of these characters. They're not just these characters wearing different outfits. We're actually going to see like slightly different models for these characters, almost like Echo Fighters for Smash, at least for some of them like Luma Lee. So I definitely think that is pretty cool, and I think there's a lot of possibilities for what types of alts we could see. Of course, I'm going to keep my expectations in check, but I am still pretty excited about Luma Lee. And I also think it's really nice that Diddy Kong is a part of a base roster. It has been quite a while since Diddy Kong has been in a base roster. I think the last time was in Super Mario Party, which is honestly kind of disappointing that it's been that long, but it is nice to see that he's finally back, and it makes a lot of sense too, as Donkey Kong has been making quite a comeback lately, so it only makes sense to have a decent amount of Donkey Kong representation here. Though, my only complaint with the Donkey Kong representation on this roster is that we didn't get King K. Rool. I think that would have been the perfect newcomer for this game, but who knows? This game still could have updates, and I think it would be nice if they added King K. Rool sometime in the future. I do feel like a King K. Rool edition would feel like genuinely extra content, so I do think that would make sense to see as some sort of update in the near future. Another thing that they showed off in the trailer were the Fever Rackets, and honestly, I'd have to say, this is probably one of the coolest new mechanics they've added to the Mario Tennis series since the gimmick courts in Mario Power Tennis. I think these are really cool overall, and it really makes the game feel like a whimsical, wacky, Mario-esque take on tennis. It really makes this game feel more interesting rather than just a generic tennis game with Mario characters plopped in, kind of like how a Mario Tennis Ultra Smash felt. So I really like this edition, and it seems like it's going to have a lot of variety since there's 30 Fever Rackets here, and since there's going to be 38 playable characters, that means there's going to be over 1,000 different combinations with characters and Fever Rackets, which means that this game will definitely have a lot of content in terms of like different selections to pick from. And these Fever Rackets are also really interesting too. Rather than just kind of generic themes of just like ice, fire, and things like that, there's a lot of really cool ones here. Like for the Ice Racket, they actually used Baron Burr from Mario Galaxy as the symbol. There's also a Banana Bunch Racket. There's a Shova Glove based on the Shovas from Mario Wonder. There's one based on the 3-Up Moon. There's like so many interesting ones here. There's like a Pokey Racket that summons Pokies. There's a Shadow Racket that kind of looks like the Cosmic Clones from Galaxy 2, as well as like the kind of like the Shadow-esque stuff from Thousand Year Door that kind of like clones your character. I know the Thousand Year Door thing is probably a coincidence, but it just kind of reminded me of it a little bit. There's even Proto Piranha from Mario Sunshine that spawns a bunch of goop on your opponent. I think there's also like a Kamek one that probably like summons like a magic spell or something like that. I think there's like a Charge and Shock one as well. There's so many of these. And it seems like there's so much variety here, and I love how it's pulling from different enemies, items, and power-ups from the Mario series. It really feels like a whimsical Mario thing here. It definitely seems like something straight out of the GameCube and Wii era, which I really appreciate. So I definitely think this is a welcomed new mechanic here. And on top of some of the things that you can select in the game, like the characters and the rackets, there's also a lot of modes in this game as well. Of course, there will be standard tennis, tournaments, the online mode, and they're also bringing back the story mode as well. I kinda doubt that it will be as interesting and in-depth as the ones from the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance Mario Tennis games, but it at least looks like it will have a little more substance than the ones from Aces and Mario Golf Super Rush, since it has a funny little story of the main characters being turned into babies and they have to learn how to play tennis again. It looks like there will be some interesting boss fights as well, like Histocrat, who's appearing in a game for the first time outside of 3D World, which is really cool. So at least there will be some little interesting things in the story mode here. I just hope there are RPG elements that make it kind of interesting, but it does look like it will have a lot of tutorial elements to it. But I'm just hoping that if it does have a lot of tutorial elements, they're kind of kept more towards the beginning, or it has some kind of balance between tutorials and challenges for returning players, almost kind of like Road Trip mode in Kirby Air Riders. Though that might be asking a bit too much for a Mario sports game, I'm just hoping that it at least has a little substance to it and is still worth playing a little bit. But even if this game's story mode is nothing to write home about, this game does seem like it will have some new modes that genuinely look interesting to returning players and offer some challenge and substance. Like, there's one called Trial Towers. I think the name is kind of funny since it reminds me of Tower of Trials, which is a mod that I've been playing a lot for Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. But this is almost like a mission mode of sorts, where you go up a tower and do different challenges that have like wildly different rule sets, like you'll be playing as different characters, and you'll have different conditions and things, and you'll have different goals, I think that actually looks pretty interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. And there will be another one called Mix It Up Mode. This seems like a more fleshed out version of the gimmick courts from Mario Power Tennis, since each gimmick court here seems like it will have a wildly different rule set and a lot of interesting things to offer. Like there's like a racket factory where you kind of switch out the different fever rackets that you play with. That kind of seems fun and chaotic there, and I really like the locale of the factory there. And then there's also Waluigi Pinball, which is also really cool. It seems like Nintendo is including Waluigi Pinball in quite a lot of games. We saw it in Mario Party Jamboree a couple years ago. Man, I can't believe that game is almost 2 years old. And it's also been in other Mario sports games as well. So it's really cool to see it in Mario Tennis. And I think the gimmick works really well too. I think it's really funny that a character can just bonk around with the bumpers, and I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. And there's also one based on Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which is really cool. It's definitely nice to see some representation of a recent mainline game, and it actually seems like they're doing the game justice this time, since multiple characters, enemies, and items will be appearing. It's a lot better than how they handled Mario Odyssey, where all we got were a couple stripped-back versions of New Donk City, where a couple new Donkers were walking around. So it's just really refreshing to see some actual representation here. And it's also really cool that Talking Flower is the commentator this time, rather than a Toad. I feel like that really signifies that we're in a new creative era of Mario. It's just really cool to see the Talking Flowers as a mainstay. And another thing with Mix It Up mode, it seems like another thing on top of Fever Rackets that genuinely makes this game feel like a Mario-esque tennis game, not just a tennis game with Mario characters plopped in. It feels really fun and interesting, and I'm really looking forward to it. It just seems like this game has a lot of substance to it, and it seems like it has a lot more charm to it, kind of like the GameCube and Wii era Mario sports games. And it's just really nice and refreshing to see a Mario sports game with a lot of content at launch. I still think there's the possibility that we could get updates or DLC in the future, but at the very least, the base game actually feels complete, which is just really nice overall. So anyways, let me know what you think of Mario Tennis Fever down in the comments, and thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!